Hello, good morning. Welcome again to Kenmore Bay Church's vlog, helping to bring you just a little bit of Bible focus into your day, and we trust that this is helpful. The subject of today's vlog is a little known character called Jael, a woman whose story you can find in Judges chapter 4 in the Old Testament. Why don't you take the time just to press pause, go and read Judges 4, press pause again, and I'll still be here waiting for you. I should perhaps have told you, maybe particularly the men watching this morning, that there are scenes of graphic violence in this passage that viewers, mainly men, again, of a nervous disposition should look away now. Because this is the story of what can happen when you have the deadly combination of a woman, a mallet, and a tent peg. Now some of you are thinking, maybe I should have pressed pause a minute ago and read the story. That's okay, you can do that now. Go back and read Judges 4. I will still be here waiting for me. Back in June, we kicked off this vlog series where we're looking at 100 men and women of the Bible. And in the second one of the whole series, back in June, Marjorie looked at Deborah, whose story is really the focus of this chapter. But don't worry if you missed it or you just simply can't remember, because the beauty of the KBC YouTube channel is you can go back, you can find it, you can refresh your memory. And incidentally, today's character, Jael, is number 69 in our series, so we've still got a way to go. What's the scene? What's the background? Well, the Canaanites, who are under the king Jabin, were a scary enemy to have. They were the enemies of the armies of Israel, but the Canaanite armies were ferocious. Their reputation was that of a well-organised military force. And they had some heavyweights among their ranks, not least the army commander Sisera. And in their day, Sisera's army was the most well-organised, the best equipped fighting force known to man, with 900 iron chariots, which were like the equivalent of today's crack assault helicopters. And as an enemy, they appeared unbeatable. Anyway, Deborah, God's person at the time, the judge Deborah, brings the word of the Lord to a man called Barak, who's Israel's army general. And in verse 8 you see Barak's reaction, and it's not one of immediate or overwhelming obedience to that word of the Lord. When Barak said to Deborah, "If you'll go with me, I'll go. If you will not go with me, I will not go." So he's reluctant General Barak. What about Jael then? Well, before we get to her, just have a quick look at verse 11, because the writer inserts what we might call a plot development, a twist, which is going to be important later, but blink and you might miss it. So let me just read it to you once again. Now Heber the Kenite had separated himself from the Kenites, from the sons of Hobab, the father-in-law of Moses, and had pitched his tent as far away as the oak in Zananim, which is near Kedesh. What's all that about, I hear you ask? Well as delaying the unfolding of the rest of the story, thereby heightening the tension for us, it gives us, the reader, a crucial piece of information which is critical to the unfolding plot. Heber, the Kenite, whose ancestors were Moses' in-laws, has switched teams. He's changed loyalty. He's defected to the side of Sisera and the Canaanites, which is remarkable really, because the Kenites, his tribe, had been with Israel since the days of Moses. And these Kenites were metal workers, they were smiths, so he'd be well employed with these 900 chariots that Sisera possesses. And the story unfurls. We have a battle, and God, faithful God, goes before the people of Israel, and Sisera's mighty army is conquered. The chariots were no use, and Sisera actually jumps from his chariot and he escapes on foot. Whereupon he finds his way to the tent of Jael, who's the wife we read of Heber the Kenite, Sisera's recent convert, remember? Verse 17 reminds us that there was an alliance between Heber and the Canaanite king Jabin. Now in the culture of the time, Jael, as a woman, had no option in that culture but to fall into line, follow the lead of her husband. She must comply with his newfound loyalty to Sisera and all things Canaanite. Well, that's certainly why Sisera went there to that tent because he thought this was a safe house, a refuge from those victorious Israelites. And Jael plays the role well, doesn't she? She offers him hospitality and she goes above and beyond the bare minimum. He asks for water, she gives him milk. He lies down to go to sleep, she puts a blanket around him. And when we read his last recorded words, we smile really because they're full of irony. And that wouldn't be lost on the Hebrew readers who first read this story. Because in the Hebrew text, the command to Jael that Sisera thinks he gives, he says, if anyone comes by and asks, is there a man here? You're to say, there is not. And then he sleeps. And as he sleeps, Jael gets busy. And as one commentator has put it, there is delightful irony here. The commander of iron chariots ends up pinned to the ground by a wooden tent peg, driven home by a mallet in a woman's hand. This is clearly not a woman to be messed with. And gentlemen who are watching today, it would certainly make you think twice about having a sly 40 winks while she's mad at you for something, wouldn't it? And yet she's the one who God gives this glorious moment of triumph to. She's the one who God gives this opportunity to rid themselves of this enemy. The glory that could have, perhaps should have, been Barak's. And without Barak's hesitation, without his reluctance, we would not even know Jael's name. She would not appear in this story. But once again, God is showing that his will and his purpose must be fulfilled, and it will be fulfilled, and he will use whomever he chooses. On this occasion, he makes a hero out of someone who has the loyalty and who displays the courage to act on God's promises, and out of faith in whom she believes God, Yahweh, to be. Barak did not act on the direct promise that God gave him, yet what he did was still counted to him as an act of faith. Read Hebrews 11, you will find Barak appears there in the so-called gallery of faith. Jael, though, she had nothing more than a tent peg and a mallet, yet what she also possessed was an unswerving loyalty to Yahweh, to eternal God. And she had a desire for peace for her people. And so she exercised faith and she seized the moment to do something significant for God. How will I live today with such faith and with such unswerving loyalty? May the Lord bless you as you seek to live for him today.